guys, it's Rebecca. So first of all, an apology. Another non-riding video. Unfortunately, I got hurt. Not a big deal, not seriously, but just enough that it won't be a riding video for a couple weeks. So, and not even related to a horse being dumb or doing something bad. So like no worries there, but it's just an apology because I won't be riding for a little bit. So I wanted to keep going though on this whole idea of the flying changes because they can be really tricky for some people, for everybody, honestly, and every horse is a little bit different. And so on that, I wanted to do a demo of where I was at with Jovi and teaching him the changes. But yeah, life circumstances kind of, make you change plans a little bit. So what I thought we'd do today is talk about a little bit more in depth about some of those prerequisites that I had mentioned in the last video of that I think are really important for when you go to do the flying changes. Because sometimes I think people get a little scared that everything has to be perfect, and that's not the case, but there is some sort of prerequisites or some things that you have to have in order to set yourself up for success and to set your horse up for success.
Number 1.
So one of the main ones is, just having a lot of different ability to ride the canter in various tempo changes and balance changes. So you want to be able to send your horse out to maybe a medium canter or even extended canter. And you want to be able to bring them back and everything stay balanced and everything also be very light off the aid. If you have to drive them really hard to get them to go forward, or you have to do a lot of corrective half hots to get them to come back, all these things are going to show up when you go to actually do the flying changes, because you're going to have to be able to have that variation. You're going to have to be able to maybe send them forward for 2 strides before you ask for the change, or to collect them for a few strides before you ask for the change, depending on the horse. And so you really need to be able to take in stride, with nothing else changing, these variations in a tempo and in balance of the canter, right? So that's got to be something that's just easy. That's easy for you to do, and those things only get easy with practice. So don't feel bad if you're like, well, my horse is really good, going out to the medium canter, but not so good coming back. It's just practice. It's practice. It's practice, and it's chipping away at the little things that aren't so good. Maybe he loses his balance in the downward, in coming back, or maybe he inverts a little bit, he or she, maybe there's just these little subtle things that you have to work on to make them better. And that's just all part of training. So you just go out and you just work on that till it's better. And of course, get eyes on the ground, right? If you're struggling with something, it could be a very simple fix, but you can't feel it, and eyes on the ground can really help you.
Number 2.
The other one that I think is super important is this ability to be able to do walk canters, canter walks, and then also to incorporate the walk canter, walk counter canter, so that the horse is really good just knowing how to pick up whatever canter lead you're asking for, no matter where you ask it, and to do that, with ease and promptness, and to be able to, do that off of a light aid. And like I said, anywhere that in the arena that you ask, right? So that that shows to me that they clearly understand what the left lead canter depart is, what the right lead canter depart is, and it's not contingent on which direction they're going. And that's really important for the flying changes, because that in their mind solidifies what depart you're asking for. So it's really easy sometimes for the horse to be like, well, I'm going left, so I'm going to canter on the left lead. And in some ways you can use that to your advantage if you're always teaching the changes when you change direction. You can run into some issues there with the horse then never being able to counter canter, because they think that whenever they're going a direction, they're on one particular lead. That a little bit happens when you're starting to teach the changes anyhow, because they start to anticipate and they fall out of balance in the counter canter, and they now know the flying change so they just change to the easier lead. That is something that kind of happens anyhow, but you have to make sure that you're not sort of setting them up for that. So you want to be able to truly know that if I am on the left lead with my body positioning, that means my left leg is at the girth, my right leg is behind the girth, that I kind of have that that positioning in my pelvis, that this is left lead canter. This is right lead canter. I mean, you can even see it on the camera. When I change my legs, it's left lead canter. I change my legs even in the seat, it changes me, right? And so you really want the horse to feel that and know this is left, this is right. Now, I know the camera is probably switching it, right? But so, but anyhow, that's like, you want the horse to be able to feel that positioning in your body and know immediately what lead you want. And there's no better way to do that than to do canter, counter, canter, canter, walk, counter, canter. Now, set yourself up for success, right? So don't try counter, canter. Don't say, okay, I'm on the left lead. Now I'm on a circle and I want them to change to the outside. Some horses can do that perfectly fine. Some horses can't. So a lot of times when I'm first starting to teach this, I might teach where I'm going true canter through the short side. I get to the long side. I come back to the walk. I change my positioning. I get the bend to the new direction. And then I counter canter down the long side. I come back to the walk before the short side. I switch my positioning. I switch their bend. I true canter through the short side. And that is sort of feels, you know, easier to them in the beginning. And then you can start doing it in a little bit more difficult patterns. This also gives you the process of, let's say that your horse has trouble counter cantering. So let's say I'm going left. I go through the short side. I'm cantering, cantering, cantering. I walk as soon as I come through the corner. I switch my positioning. So now I'm right bend. I'm, you know, getting ready to ask for the right canter. But my horse is struggling. I can leg yield them off of the right leg out onto the, say, the quarter line. I can actually even have made my turn to the quarter line so that I'm almost going back to the track to the right, that then, oh, okay, I'm going the right direction, but then you go straight down the track. Try and set it up so that you can, you know, give them that feeling of, oh, now we're going right. This is in the very beginning. Just sort of teach them, hey, this is right lead canter. We go down the long side. We come back to the walk. Hey, this is left lead canter, right? So they really feel the difference, and they learn that. They learn the body positioning, but they also learn what you're doing and how you're cueing it up there. And then before long, you can just ask for the canter, walk, counter, canters wherever you ask, wherever you want. When you get to that point is when you know that they really clearly understand the aid for whatever canter lead you want. And then that's, you know, a good indication that you're ready to start the flying changes.
Number
3. The third thing that I think is really important, that you are able to do the haunches in at the walk, the trot, and the canter. And the only reason I say this, not only is this sort of like what you're doing at the level of, you know, second, third level, you're doing haunches in, but also that this shows that you have true control of the haunches. So if you can do haunches in, I'm going to pretend my haunches are in. If you can do haunches in to the right, and you can control that angle and come in and out of haunches in, that shows that you have control of the haunches. If the horse is swinging his haunches in or falling out of balance, or, you know, the shoulders go out, the haunches don't really come in, or the horse can, you know, is kind of doing it on their own accord and not really on your aid, or they're, you know, having speed evasions, meaning speeding up or slowing down, or they're, you know, not truly on the bit anymore when they're doing it. These are all indications that you really don't have control of the haunches. And so it's important for you to be able to control the haunches in a quiet way, and being able to do haunches in at the walk, trot, and the canter. And of course, start at the slower gates. If you can't do it at canter, you know, see if you can do it at you know, set yourself up for success at the trot. If you can't do it in trot, set yourself up for success at the walk. There's a lot of exercises to help teach this, which is a little bit beyond this this video, but really being able to control the haunches is key, because you want, not only just because you want to have that control, but you also want to have that proprioception of where your horse's haunches are, because that's going to be important when you go to set them up for the change. You have to be able to feel, are they truly coming up through with both hind legs underneath each of my seat bones? Can I move their haunches or their body around to set themselves up to have a straight, clean change? If they're, if they're weighting one hind leg more than the other, or a one hind leg is sort of swinging out a little bit or stepping out of the center of gravity, any of those things are going to mess up your changes. So to be able to move the haunches and bring them back into position and do it in a way that is, correct, is a really important skill to be able to line the horse up for the changes.
Number
4.
So that brings us to the fourth prerequisite that I think is really important, which is to be able to control the shoulders. And this becomes a little bit more complicated. So let's talk about in the walk. In the walk, you can do bend, counter bend. You can actually change your positioning. So you can be like, I'm walking to the right and I'm going to counter bend to the left. Now I'm going to walk to the left. I'm going to counter bend to the right. So you should be able to change your positioning in the walk and get them to be able to move their shoulders in different, and loosen up and have that, again, that control, that ability to move the shoulders around in a way that you're signaling and you're controlling how far, how much. They're not just falling out the shoulders. You're not saying, well, I want to bend, counter bend right, and they just start falling into the left. To really be able to fine tune that, and, start at the walk. The trot, again, is, super easy. You can do exercises like, I'm not saying super easy as far as when I get to the canter, you'll understand why it's a little more complicated. You can change your positioning of your body in the trot to do trot, true bend, counter bend, and to be able to move the shoulders around in the trot. And one of the ways that you can do this is on a circle. You can do leg yield in at the trot and then leg yield out at the trot, and really be able to make sure that, one, you're controlling the tempo, two, that the size of the circle is what you're asking it to be. So if you pick a 20-meter circle between B and E, that when you leg yield in, it's a 10-meter circle around X, and when you leg yield back out, it's a 20-meter circle at B and E, meaning that the horse didn't make it bigger on one end or, make it oblong or anything like that. When you truly have control, of the haunches and the shoulders in that, that whatever part that you're asking to yield more yields more. That's what I mean by having control over the haunches and the shoulders. Because there is sometimes that there's some horses that you feel like, no, I need you to yield your hind leg more and step underneath of yourself more in the leg yield. Some of them you say, no, I need you to bend a little more right at the girth or right in front of the girth and actually yield your shoulders a little bit more. And you need to be able to control that both in the true bend and the counter bend in that leg yield exercise. Where it becomes complicated is when you get into the canter, because like we talked about, if I'm cantering left, my right leg's back, my left leg is at the girth, the horse is like bent left. I'm going to like kind of be the rider and the horse, right? I'm bent left a little bit. If I go to switch my positioning to counter bend, I've just asked for the flying change. So that's not what we want at this point. What we want is that we maintain that right leg back. We maintain the left leg at the girth. We are cantering left, but we want to be able to displace the shoulders a little bit and have that shift in, but we are not changing our positioning at all. So in the trot, you can actually say, I'm bent left, now I want to counter bend, I'm bent right. Doesn't affect the trot. That 2 beat still keeps happening, right? But in the canter, you cannot change your positioning. That would be asking for a flying change. And so if you want to stay in left canter, you have to maintain left positioning in your body. You are just asking with, say, like your right rein and your right thigh for the horse to give a little bit and do the counter bend. So if I'm in left lead, right, I've got my left lead, my left leg at the girth, I got my right leg behind the girth, and I'm just going to ask with like my knee and my right rein to do a little bit of like this counter bending. It's not counterflexion. So counterflexion is that the horse just flexes at the pole. That is an exercise in and of itself. But sometimes what we need to be able to do, if the horse is just, we need to be able to line the shoulders up so that they're not dipping this way or this way in the change, that they can actually come up through with the new inside hind. And some horses, and what this exercise teaches you is some horses, when they're in left lead canter, they're just slightly popping out of their right shoulder. It's subtle, but they need to stack up. And one of the ways to get that ability to stack them up so that they're I don't want to say straight, but everything is like stacked up out to the reins, is for this ability to control the shoulders. And sometimes you might have to say, hey, I want this right shoulder to have a little bit more freedom in it, and for you not to be in this position where I'm exaggerating. But sometimes they'll get like this where they're bent left, but there's just this right shoulder you don't have full control of. You want to be able to stack up that right shoulder so that then when you switch your positioning, then the horse has the ability to jump through that right shoulder to the new flying change. So how we start that is with this ability to have a little bit of like, I'm cantering left, but I want this right shoulder to move to the left a little bit. It doesn't have to be drastic. We're not asking for this bend that they start falling to the inside and running onto the left lead, falling to the inside. These are all subtle things, but you'll find when you go to teach your horse changes that you have to have this ability to kind of do this with the shoulders and to do that with the haunches, to line them up so that in the moment that you ask, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that was easy. But if you go into it with these minor little crookedness and not the ability to adjust these things, you're going to find that you get into trouble with the flying changes. So that's why those four those four sort of prerequisites, I call them, for the flying changes. I think I mentioned in one of the comments that I did have these 10 exercises to teach the flying changes from way back when, and I do not have them in a PDF format. So if you guys are interested in the PDF format of that, or maybe me even doing a little mini series on each one of those 10 exercises, just put a comment below so that I know that you're interested in that, because that will take a little bit of time for me to develop and do. And I'm more than happy to do it if there's an interest, but I want to make sure there's an interest before I go to all that. So yeah, thanks for being patient with me while I'm on the injured reserve list. Hopefully I'll be back out there as soon as possible. In the meantime, I will be doing these videos like this, which will be a little bit more theory oriented, which actually I love, because I love getting into the theory. That's just part of how my brain works. And if I can understand the theory, then I usually am more successful when I go out and try and actually do the exercise or do the movement. So the theory really helps me mentally get prepared for riding. So yeah, I hope that helps you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.